Alabama has wrapped up its 2017 spring practice. Now it's time to look ahead to the fall. With me here, Matt Scalici, Kevin Scarbinsky. We're going to play a little game of fact or fiction, and we're going to start with a quarterback controversy. Alabama has not had the same starting quarterback since 2014, or since A.J. McCarron was the quarterback at Alabama. And you pointed out something good, Kevin. Blake Barnett started last year, so we're going to have a different starting quarterback this year regardless. But are we going to have a controversy, fact or fiction?
Well, in our comment section, fact. In the football offices in Tuscaloosa, fiction. No, Jalen Hurts is the starter, and there's no question about that. You noticed that after the spring game, Nick Saban was quick to say that Tua had 2 series with the ones on offense against the ones on defense, and they went 3 and out both times. That was a message to the people in the comment section that there is no controversy. There is a pecking order. Jalen Hurts is the starter. Tua Tagovailoa is the backup.
I like that you got the name right.
I do think that even though Saban clearly puts a lot of value on the experience that Jalen got last season, I think part of why we're having this discussion is because of what happened a year ago. That kind of changed people's opinions about how quarterback races go at Alabama forever, because ultimately a true freshman winning the job was something I think you and I both would have said is extremely unlikely to happen a year ago, and now we've seen it happen. And so I think people are more likely to look at this and say, hey, anything can happen. This race is wide open. Clearly I think Jalen is expected to improve his passing skills. Tua is probably going to be there pushing him. I think that's the expectation. But I think we're probably all expecting Nick Saban to put a lot of value on the experience that Jalen Hurts got in the 2016 season.
And as Nick Saban said, healthy competition, it's always good for those guys to get out there and push each other. I think that's what we're going to see, but a more developed, mature Jalen Hurts, he can only get better from here. Next, fact or fiction, Alabama will allow more passing yards than it gains. I'll start with you, Matt. The numbers here. Last year, Alabama passed for 3,154 yards. They gave up 2,968 passing yards. So what are your thoughts, fact or fiction?
So really not that much of a split there. I mean, they're basically about 200 yards either way, which is, one good or bad game from either team. I think the expectation, certainly from Nick Saban, certainly from the fans who see Brian Dable coming in, hopefully bringing in some of that Patriots magic, I think most folks expect Alabama to have a better passing offense next season. At the same time, we all watch the A-Day game now. We've seen that this secondary has a lot of question marks right now. So I think it's going to be, it could go either way. And Kevin, it may come down to the opponents. It may come down to what kind of competition does Alabama face when it comes to the passing offenses they go up against.
And let's be honest, they didn't face a succession of great passing offenses last year.
Right.
But think about it this year. Florida State, we know they can throw the ball. Vanderbilt out of the East, they torched Tennessee down the stretch and got better and better with their passing offense as the season went on. If Auburn doesn't pass the ball better this year than last year, we'll be talking about a coaching change most likely on the Plains. They're going to throw the ball better. So the team, and we know Arkansas can throw it because they threw it against Alabama last year, and Austin Allen is back. So they're probably going to face better passing offenses, and that secondary looks awfully thin for Alabama. This is not a year where you can have a guy like an Eddie Jackson go down and not miss a whole lot. They're losing so much experience with Eddie Jackson and Marlon Humphrey just in those 2 spots. They don't have a lot of guys in the backup. Trayvon Diggs still learning to play the cornerback position. I think a lot of Alabama fans wish he'd switch back to wide receiver after the A-Day game. He spent a lot of time chasing guys' shoes in that game. So giving up 600 passing yards, given the conditions, of course, there wasn't a full pass rush or anything like that, but that had to be a concern, not only for the fans, but for the coaches as well.
A lot of youth there and inexperience, something they'll be looking towards generating some, hopefully, momentum and getting these guys ready to go. All right, fact or fiction, Kevin. Alabama will continue its SEC champion streak and win its 4th straight.
No one's done that in the SEC championship game era since Florida did it from '93 through '96. That is awfully hard to do.
Very hard.
But clearly they will be the favorite going into the season. They will be the most talented team in the league going into the season. How much are the other teams going to step up? How much good fortune is Alabama going to have in terms of injury luck? Are they going to keep key players healthy throughout the year? I would say right now it's a fact, but I think it's closer to being a fiction than it's been going into the last 3 years, because I think they're going to get a little better competition, and I think they're going to get a little better competition in that game at the end of the season than they've had since 2014 when we saw that shootout in Bryant-Denny.
AKA the Iron Bowl.
Well, do you mean the Iron Bowl or do you mean the SEC championship game?
No, the SEC championship game is a no-brainer. There's nobody in the East. Sorry, Kirby Smart. Sorry, Dog fans. And I know they think this is their year.
Right.
And the second year under Kirby is going to be like the second year under Nick Saban in Tuscaloosa. Kirby Smart is not Nick Saban, and he may never be. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. So Georgia probably will win the East, but I don't think they'll be up to playing with Alabama. No, if somebody's going to keep Alabama out of Atlanta and keep them from winning the title, it's most likely going to be Auburn.
Yeah, I think the biggest threat is probably going to come from the SEC West, like you said. And there's a lot of it's a weird year in the SEC West because there's a lot less certainty, I think, than we've had most years. Even though Alabama's clearly the favorite, like you said, Auburn certainly has very high hopes coming into this season. LSU's a total question mark. There's so much talent on that roster, but Ed Orgeron's coaching, you kind of feel like it's a complete wild card.
And Danny Etling's still the quarterback. Last check, and he's undergoing back surgery after spring practice.
But
that can't be good.
There's a lot of hype around Mississippi State all of a sudden being a dark horse, maybe not to win the West, but just to mess somebody's season up. So I think there's a lot going on in the SEC West. It's a sort of dramatic year heading into the season, at least. So I think the threat is greater that Alabama might be sweating in November as far as getting to Atlanta. So I'll still go with fact, though. I think Alabama's probably just got too much of a leg up on everybody else now.
All great points there. He's Kevin Scarbinsky. He's Matt Scalici. I'm Lauren Sisler. Thank you so much for watching. And, of course, for all your Alabama Crimson Tide updates, you can visit us on AL.com.